Hello and welcome to another video. I've got to give, just waiting for some people to join in. Hi there. Hello, I'm that guy, yes, the one that waffles on about all sorts of weird stuff. So, as always, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask, cover any subject. I'll try my best to answer them from the knowledge I've got for the last 30 odd years. All sorts of things from crop circles to giants to Bigfoot, aliens. I try and cover a lot of stuff in my research. And if I don't get any questions, then I generally just waffle on until someone asks a question about something. So here goes. So I was just going to start with Betty and Barney Hill. I'm sure you've all probably heard the case. So Betty and Barney Hill were a couple in America who got abducted by aliens. Quite a famous case, and there was some residual evidence thereafter on her coat and clothing. This sort of stuff that shone in under a certain type of light, which was quite weird. Okay, first question: What do you think? What do you think of Dr. Stephen Greer? Yeah, I think he's very knowledgeable. He's been at it for a very long time. He's got some good contacts. The government's actually apparently asked him in a few times to actually help with various UFO and alien stuff. So I don't think he's disinformation. I think he's on the level. No one puts themselves out there. I mean, he was actually a doctor, so to go from being a proper doctor to the nutter that everyone calls people that follow aliens and stuff. So I think he's a good guy actually. I know he does these or used to do these things where people can, like, trips, and they would go out and they would all consciously try and ask for a UFO to fly by, and then they would fly by. So I think he's a good guy. I've not come across anything that says otherwise, unless you know otherwise, in which case I'll be interested to know. But I think he's on the level. I think he's one of us. Okay, next question is from Izzy. When are the Anunnaki due back? So there's some debate, because you've probably seen videos online saying, oh, the Anunnaki are due back. But from what I've heard, the Anunnaki are already dealing with our secret military complex, which is pretty, let's be honest, it's pretty much the Americans. They're already dealing with them. So I don't think as a race they're all going to suddenly come steaming back. I think there's no point for them to do that. They're already dealing with us. The difference is, I think their planet may be coming back round. That's a sort of separate issue, because obviously that's nothing they can control. I think I did a video showing, which is quite weird because everyone debunks a lot of or tries to debunk a lot of the stuff I say. But when I said about these, I can't remember the name of them off the top of the head, but these they look like mini Challenger craft. The old Challenger that went up into space. They look like mini ones of those, and apparently they had, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, these not weapons, but these energy beams that they were trying to push Nibiru out of the way so it wouldn't come back and interfere with us. And funny enough, I didn't get anyone debunking that. It was quite weird. But that's the story of it, and there's some footage online of these spacecraft actually landing, and the news reports were asking them, what's this? Where did that go from? Where did it come from? But they didn't tell the news reports anything, but the whistleblowers have said that, these things were out there for 6 months or a year or whatever it was, trying to do the thing to push Nibiru so that it wouldn't affect Earth too much. Now, whether or not that's true, the crafts are definitely true. Whether or not the mission is true, I don't know. But see, the thing that got me with that is, if the Anunnaki are still on Nibiru, now it's possible they may have moved off of there, because obviously they had issues with their atmosphere, which is the whole reason why we know about them coming here to mine for powdered gold to sprinkle in their atmosphere. Now, that sounds stupid. Everyone used to say that was stupid, but until you realise that Bill Gates is trying to do the same thing with Earth, not necessarily sprinkling gold, but putting stuff up in the outer atmosphere to stop the sun's rays. So it's not such a daft thing for them to want to put powdered gold in their atmosphere for whatever reason they believed it was going to help them. But if these craft were actually firing these beams to try and push Nibiru out, if the Anunnaki were on there, they probably wouldn't like their planet being nudged out of a particular orbit. Which then makes me think, okay, so either it's a lie and these craft weren't particularly doing that mission, or the Anunnaki are no longer on that planet and they've bugged off and moved somewhere else. So interesting. But yeah, I don't think the Anunnaki are going to come back here. I don't think you're going to see, an invasion of Anunnakis on our planet. I don't see that ever happening. Lots of reasons. One is obviously the counts of aliens as well would put us in quarantine, and I think they'd done that after the Anunnaki had done their flood business and whatnot. So I don't think we'll ever see that, and I don't think we'll ever see an alien invasion, not while the council of aliens are protecting us. So, and they're protecting us from aliens, but they're not protecting us from Bill Gates, people on Earth. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll down. Any good documentaries? There's one that I loved. I just couldn't get enough of it, and that was, I know I've mentioned it before in the videos, but Michael Tellinger. I don't know whether I paid to see it. He's got it on Vimeo. It was well worth the money. I lapped it up, but I don't know if you can find it anywhere else. But he done one on the ancient ruins in South Africa, and the way he done it was like, I don't know, 10 episodes or something, and he was just laying out the facts each episode, and then suddenly, bang, he hits you with the fact that the way that the stones are all positioned made basically a power grid. It was just, the way he had done it is fantastic. So if you can watch that, or anything from Michael Tellinger, to be honest, he's done some fantastic stuff. Other documentaries, obviously you've got the older ones, A Strange Harvest by Linda Moulton Howe. I'm just trying to think of some off the top of my head. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. You caught me on that, but yeah, definitely those guys. The Me Too has talked to me about pyramids. Okay, so pyramids first started in Sumeria. We know that just from dating of them, and the fact that they were the ziggurats, which are the step pyramids. And now mainstream say that they were temples to be worshipped, but we know, as I've said in one of my last few videos, about some of the Anunnaki having their own temples built for them. So they're not pyramids are not a temple. So the ziggurats were done first, way before the Giza pyramids that we all know. Way before, thousands of years before. So if you look at the chronological timescale of the Anunnaki, they were here 450,000 years ago, and they lived right up until pretty much 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. So the ziggurat pyramids were first, and then over time they built the pyramids that we know and love today. Now each pyramid, I believe, does a different thing. So the Great Pyramid is the one that has power coming from it, and that's perfectly fine because it's on the correct point in a ley line on Earth, so that would make sense. People have gone along with instruments and seen power coming from it, so that makes sense. Other pyramids around the world that's on certain ley lines also produce power, but the other ones don't produce power. So, for example, the two ones next to it, no one's actually ever said that in Giza that they produce power, so they're obviously for a different reason. So that's sort of the basics of the pyramids. Now, how they were built, simply using and I know people's going to shout out slaves, slaves, but I don't think they were. I think the pyramids were built before, long before that, and I think they were built using sound levitation. There's lots of evidence to sort of support that, especially as we move along now in our technology, where we're using. All right, we can only lift tiny, tiny things at the moment, but sound levitation does work. And you just go back, the monks used to use sound levitation. The walls of Jericho came down because of sound levitation, and the list goes on. So you sort of can say, okay, well, maybe there is, sound frequencies can do things that we're not used to. So that's how I think. And of course, there's quartz in the limestone. So certain pyramids are made of certain rocks. Obviously, you've got the granite rocks, with the quartz, I think it had a resonance frequency that allowed them to be lifted quite easily. And it's the same rock that's in Coral Castle, if you know where that is in Florida, that was made by Edwin Lee Scullin, I think his name is, Edward. So they were built, and I think they were built with just the Anunnaki doing it. There wasn't no giants at the time. I think these were built a long time ago. Now, I know Ed Casey throws out the figure of 10,000, approximately 10,000 years ago. And the reason why I say I don't think humans helped with it is because, and yes, they were around, Homo sapiens sapiens, it's just because everything that the Anunnaki done when humans were around was written down, one form or another. There's pictographs, hieroglyphics, texts, yada, yada, yada. But the pyramids, there's no such mention of them. There's no, other than the fake cartouche in the top king's chamber, that we know is fake now. There's no writing whatsoever. And there's what they call the femi-stele at the front of it was of the Sphinx was placed way, way, way after the Sphinx was first built. So I think humans didn't help with the pyramids at that point. Later on, maybe, when the third dynasty came in, for example, in Egypt, humans probably tried to make their own versions of it. But I think that's... So hopefully that's, unless you've got a more specific question, hopefully that sort of covered some of the topics there on pyramids. What does it mean when you keep saying the white lady? I don't recall saying the white lady. Sorry, not sure what that means. Sorry, don't know. AJ... has wrote, "Oh, we under a dome?" No, I mean, I certainly don't believe that. Because there's so many reasons why. First of all, the Bible says firmament. Okay, so people have latched onto that. But if you go back to where the Bible copied from, which was all the original text, Dead Sea Scrolls, etc., which makes up the Book of Enoch. And I was reading this just the other day, so I'm fully aware of it. So basically, the Anunnaki had trouble coming through our atmosphere. But they don't call it atmosphere. There was no word for atmosphere back then, so they called it firmament. So if you replace firmament with atmosphere, they had trouble getting through our atmosphere. And that's as simple as it is. And also in those old texts, they talk about the stars in heaven. Now, obviously, we can see the stars, so they're not in heaven, they're in space. So there is a space. It's just obviously, it's hard to translate something that was an alien language. And yes, it was. The Elohim, which is the Anunnaki, that's their race name, actually had the first writing. So you've got the Sumerian writing, which is Anunnaki, which is alien writing. So to try and change all of, convert that into English writing, yes, there's going to be words that certainly don't make sense, or back then it didn't make sense, so they used the words that they could fit to it. But now when you reread it and you say, okay, we know what space is, and we know the stars are not in heaven because we can actually see them, so they must be in space. So change the word heaven to space. And if you go back through everything, I mean, many people's already said this many a time, change the word heaven to space in the Bible, bang, totally different story. Makes so much more sense. So no, I certainly don't think there's a dome. The fact that people say there is, you have to then say, well, okay, so NASA would have had to have lied. What was the point in doing the dome, faking the dome? Telling us there's no space and doing all this fake stuff to pretend there's space out there. It's just a hell of a lot of aggro just to convince us something that we don't really care one way or another. If we was in a dome, we wouldn't have cared. If we're not in a dome, we wouldn't have cared. But so to go through the aggro of trying to pretend there's ships out there and planets and, you might as well just, I don't know. So no, to me, there is no dome. It's just atmosphere that they struggled with. And rightly so, because their planet had dwindled in atmosphere. That's exactly what it says in the original text. So if they could leave their planet without having too many problems, burning up like we do on our atmosphere, because they had dwindling atmosphere, it just makes sense. So if you just use logic, that's more logical than an invisible dome that has all the stars inside it and the moon and the sun, and just too many people trying to make up too much stuff just to fit in because of the word firmament. And that's really all it is. It's just that's what I think anyway. The Cows wrote, do you think Atlantis is related to ancient aliens? Good question. No one's asked me that one before, really. So really, Atlantis, the only real proof of any kind of Atlantis was Plato. Now he got the information, and it was a couple of 100 years after, apparently, the Egyptian priests had told someone that wasn't Egyptian, and then he went back over to Rome or wherever Plato was at the time, told a few people, and then one of his, so basically it was a Chinese whispers type thing. So eventually Plato got word of this and wrote it down. So that's the only information we've got at the moment. Now, you could say, well, is it just a fictitious story or is it real? There is, so that's the only real evidence. Now, obviously, you've got anecdotal evidence, where people say, well, because it said it was between, the Bering Straits, or because it was between the Eye of the Needle and all these kind of references that was in Plato's writings, then, they can find these locations. But of course, there's so many locations that people's already said. And plus, if it was sunk, is it because the water rose? In which case, now we're maybe looking in the wrong places. And what was it before? It was supposedly rings or concentric rings or some sort of shape that was a circle. This city. My first thoughts years and years ago was it a massive, disc-shaped craft that was, around and then flew off or went underwater, like that we've got now, that UFOs can go underwater. So I'm trying to answer your question as to whether or not I think there were aliens. If there was an Atlantis, and the people split like they say they did, they say that when Atlantis had a sort of a war with another faction, some of the people split and some went to Egypt and some went elsewhere. So, and that's where Egypt learned a lot of more modern techniques for things because of the Atlanteans. Now, the Atlantis actually isn't the real name for it. There's another name for it. It wasn't actually called Atlantis. I know people say, oh, well, Atlantis has got to be in the Atlantic Ocean. That's the reason. And forgive me, I can't remember the real name of it, but if it's not called, so if you go back to the original writings, it's not called Atlantis, it's called something else. But I just won't be able to remember the name. It's not a sort of normal name, not a sort of an English name. But were they? I think if they were, they were probably advanced, and they could have been a faction off of the Anunnaki for all we know. They could have decided to settle here on Earth. It could have been the Aigigi, or it could have been fallen angels, which are basically Anunnaki that was outcast because of their relationships with the humans. So yeah, I think certainly the the information suggests that they were advanced, more advanced than most of the other countries. So were they aliens? More than likely in some shape or form. So it could have just been the Anunnaki there. I don't think they were aliens coming from another planet that wasn't the Anunnaki and deciding to set up a location here on Earth, because I just can't see that happening. I can't see the point of an alien race coming here, setting up a little place, and then just I can't see that. There's no evidence to say that that's what's happened, but so hopefully I've kind of not really answered your question probably, but Dino has wrote, do you think the Black Ops operate within us? And if so, what do they do reported as something else? Oh, certainly the Black Ops. Yeah, so Black Ops, I know you've got the computer games and stuff that talk about the Black Ops, but Black Ops originally, the name originally was to do with black operations, which means it wasn't, it was under the radar. It wasn't, government didn't know about it. No one knew about it other than so it's called, so Eisenhower found out that there was people that were setting up things like in Area 51, for example, that he wasn't allowed to know about, and eventually he found out, and that's how MJ12 eventually got off the ground. But so he worked out that there was a secret military complex, and obviously JFK found that out as well, and that's one of the reasons why I think he was bumped off. But so the Black Ops are certainly a real thing. I mean, so that they cover a lot of aspects. So it's not just aliens. The Black Ops do all sorts of things from 9/11, or is that the time? Sorry, that kind of thing. That's all secret and no one's supposed to know about them. So yes, they are. I totally believe that it's a real thing. I mean, look at Donald Rumsfeld the day before 9/11, where he turns around and says that there's X amount of trillions of dollars gone missing from the American government. It's not gone missing. That's where they pay. They use that money, that secret money, to fund the Black Ops and the secret military complex. That's how and that's just per year, trillions per year on these secret bunkers, secret this, secret that. And that's how they fund it. So, funny enough, the following day, no newspaper talked about the trillions of dollars because they're all concerned about something else happening at the World Trade Center. So, yes, Black Ops definitely exist. Have you heard about the pyramids in Australia? Specifically, no, I'll be honest. I'm sure there's pyramids everywhere, and I think there are pyramids in Australia, but if there's one sort of Pacific one you're referring to, I'm not aware of it. Andrews wrote above top secret. Yeah, so there's you've got different categories, and that goes within the Black Ops actually, or the secret military complex. Cosmic clearance is, I understand, is the highest clearance, cosmic. And that, you have to be really in the know to know that. So everything is compartmentalized. So although you've got top secret, above top secret, there's more levels than that. There's, I can't remember the other, there's probably 2 or 3 before you get to cosmic. And so it's a need to know, basically. If you need to know, then they'll tell you. If you don't need to know, then you don't know. But everything is totally compartmentalized. So people working on one thing probably don't even know what their colleague is working on. That's how close they keep the separation. Hi, Amanda, who's probably driving in a vehicle that I've got told to say hi and say her dog's lovely and hi to her partner. There we go. I did it. Hi, Stacey, who's joined. More distractions. Nothing you're saying is true. No disrespect, my friend. I too was lost. Yeah, no worries if that's what you think. I'm just going with written evidence and things like that. Whistleblowers. The other side of that, so the opposite to me, if I'm going by the texts, the writing, and the whistleblowers and sort of evidence, I guess, and I don't mean to sound rude, but if I'm going by that, the other side of that would be people making up stuff and guessing. I don't know. Do you see what I mean? I'm just trying to work that out there. Because if you're not following the same information that I'm using, which is the sort of real information, because there's no other information out there, and this is, I don't know. Sorry. XXXin has wrote, do you think it's possible there was an ancient civilization that had better technology than we have? So you could argue that the Atlanteans did, because supposedly they possibly had flying machines, and we've only just got flying machines, as you can, I know, sort of in the last 100 years or so. So the Anunnaki did have different technology to us, but like I've mentioned a couple of times in some videos, they also used swords. So although they've got the technology to fly, they were using primitive weapons. So it's kind of a weird thing. Now, if you go back further than the Anunnaki, was there an ancient alien race or ancient race here on Earth that had better technology than us? As much as people can say they believe there is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no evidence to show that. Nothing. Which is a real shame. I mean, you've got things out there that's been found that's hundreds of millions of years old. Those round balls with a slight edge to them that were found in a cave and things like that. So, these are not natural things. So we found non-natural things, but as regards to technology, none of these are, or that we're aware of, none of these are technology that we found, or that we can work out that they're technology. So other than the Anunnaki, unless it was, a billion years ago and everything's, totally destroyed over time, other than the Anunnaki, there's nothing, and possibly the Atlanteans, there's nothing out there to prove that there was another civilization that was smarter than us. I mean, you could argue, people that built the pyramids were smarter than us because we can't figure out how they actually did it. But if you say, well, okay, they were the Anunnaki, then that kind of makes sense because they're the ones that could travel here, and therefore they are smarter than us at that point that they came here, which was obviously 450 odd thousand years ago. Stacey's wrote, no, he hasn't only distracted you. No, they didn't. Oh, that was, I'm guessing, referring to something that, sorry, sometimes I get behind on these messages, so it's really difficult to catch back up. Andrews wrote the film They Live. Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things out there that have tried to point us. I mean, the one I don't think people mention these days anymore is the old series V. I don't know if you're old enough to remember V, the original V, with the reptilians disguised as humans. Back then I was starting to learn, what's going on in the world, or trying to learn what's going on in the world. And that program came on, and I thought, are they actually trying to say to us, look, guys, it was just very uncanny. I had a lot of stuff in there that I was learning around that sort of time. So Stacey's wrote, we know nothing. Well, we're all trying to learn. That's the thing. What about the golden, Drax has asked, what about the golden pyramid in Australia? I'm not aware of a golden pyramid in Australia. I will look that up. Sorry, I've not heard of that. I do have archaeologists and things send me information, and each night I try and read as much as I can, but I've not come, I mean, it was probably out there for a while, so I don't know. But I've not heard of a golden. So I will look into that. Thank you. Kyle's wrote, we haven't invented anything yet. We're just rediscovering lost tech. Yeah, could be. Stacey's wrote, wrong on something that I've said earlier. Sorry, I'm behind on the messages, so forgive me. And then Kyle's wrote, open your eyes, Stacey. I mean, I've seen Stacey's comments on some of my other videos. Stacey's obviously got his own, I'm guessing he's a he because of the picture. Forgive me if I'm wrong. He's got his own thoughts on things. That's absolutely fine. You know, I like to debate. So, you know, if I chat, it's not me being rude. I want to debate and I want to get to an answer on something. So, you know, if you've got text or proof of something, then I'm more than interested in listening. But I do have a lot of people saying things like the Anunnaki, you know, where I said that they were supposedly pale-skinned, and I've got a lot of people, and you know, and this isn't racist or anything, but a lot of people that's been saying that they were black. The people that are saying that are, you know, you can tell on their pictures, are a particular colour. But that's fine. But then I asked them, please show me where it says that they're black. And none of them's replying, and that's really sad, because I can show them where it says it's pale skin, but no one's coming back to me and saying, this is the information, this is where we got the fact they're black. In fact, one person come back and says, oh, look, he's got dreadlocks, therefore he's from Africa, therefore he's black. But isn't it possible the Anunnaki had dreadlocks and the Africans copied the Anunnaki? Why does Africans have to be first? Why can't the Anunnaki have had dreadlocks? I mean, if you look at the statues of the Anunnaki, the way their beards are braided, you would say, well, okay, maybe they were first, and maybe the Africans copied them. Do you see what I'm saying? So I like to debate, and if someone can give me good answers and stuff. So someone's asked again, what do I think of Stephen Greer? Yeah, I mentioned him at the beginning. Someone else asked that earlier. Yes, totally think he's a great guy, unless someone tells me otherwise. But the stuff I've seen, and I've never spoke to him. Spoke to a lot of the other researchers, but I've never spoke to Stephen Greer. But I think he's on the level. Kyle's wrote, Andrew, she is locked in the matrix, not ready to be unplugged. Stacey's asked, what language you ask? Again, I'm so sorry. There's like messages by the time I get to yours. Forgive me. So if I do that, just try and write a little bit more so I can sort of answer it clearly, because by the time I've got to yours, I don't know what subject we was talking about. Daydreams wrote, love it, thank you. I'm hoping you're meaning my stuff, not someone else's. What are your thoughts on them coming back, the Anunnaki? So I've mentioned that briefly already on this video. Someone else had asked the question. I think it's going to be Nibiru will come back round, but I don't think the Anunnaki, they're already talking to the military, so the Anunnaki are not going to suddenly show up. It's just not going to happen. But the planet might come back round. That's my thoughts on it. So Rob has wrote, didn't they find a very compelling place in Northern Africa? I'm guessing you're referring to where the Anunnaki were. If I'm wrong, tell me. So yeah, there's actually when I first started doing research, as the internet started to come about, I started to do research on the internet, and I came across lots and lots of information in South Africa and Africa about the gold mines, and I saw pictures of them. Ancient gold mines, 100,000 years ago, gold mines, not by us, and these were done by the Anunnaki. And the walls of these caves were as if you'd melted the walls. They were not dripping, but they were gloss, which makes sense actually, because when you look at Pumapunku, All the places, Baalbek, all the places that have these huge rocks that slip inside each other. Literally, you must have seen pictures of them. You have a tiny block, and the next block sort of got like it looks like Tetris, and that I believe is done by some sort of heat effect. And the reason why I say that is because over in Scotland, there's a building that has petrified but burnt stone. And people have tried to recreate that. They've actually gone there with the same type of stone. They've heated it using the old technology, wood and fire. But they can't get the heat anywhere near it. So anyway, going back to the mines, yeah. So the Anunnaki were over in Africa because basically that's where the best gold come from, or the most gold come from, and that's where Enki went, and that's where Enki set up his lab to create Adam and Eve, which makes total sense because when our modern scientists say we come from Africa, bang, there you go. Just makes total sense. As opposed to, life just starting. I try and look at both sides. I try and say, okay, well, where are we getting this other information from, and what's the logic behind that? And I always end up with no logic. But when you go back to the sort of information I'm trying to put out, there's a logic there, and it makes more sense. So Rob has wrote that the Sahara was lush with life before it turned to a giant beach. Yes, so I think what's happened is, and it used to be the bottom of the ocean as well. People have found many fossils of underwater creatures that are in the Sahara. So what's I think's happened, if you believe that the world tips on its axis every X amount of thousands of years, and then so Antarctica had green grass, and then obviously eventually it flips, and then ice, and then same goes for the. So if that's the case, then at some point there would have probably been lush green grass there, and it would have not been in the location that it would have been now. That's why the North Pole keeps moving. True North. So yeah, our planet's been flipped around probably quite a few times, and many years ago I remember hearing that it's going to flip again, and I was actually quite worried. I was thinking, oh my God, is it going to happen tomorrow? But if it does happen, it's probably not going to be in my lifetime, thank God. Amanda's wrote, so many sorries. Yeah, it's because I say sorry a lot, apparently. Sorry, Amanda. Soul Matrix, what's up? Our True History. Hi there, how you doing? Cool. Just doing a live chat at the moment. Soulmates wrote, the ones at Stanthorpe Pyramid, that is. Don't know what that is. Not come across Stanthorpe, or if I have, I can't remember it. Andrews wrote, yes, V classic. Yeah, V actually was quite scary, if I remember. I mean, I was only 59 when I watched it. No, I'm not that old. Bad joke. Okay. D Oak has wrote, what if the timeline is just a loop like the Loki series, like the start and the end of time would be another parallel world, but it's only time. Carries on. What I mean is the dreams we have is connected to the past, and some dreams are fantastic. Fantastic, yeah. Well, they say that spirits say that everything is happening now. The past, present, and future is happening right now, which is hard for us to grasp. And then you can say, well, okay, spirits can see the future and they can see the past because you can ask them things and they can recall things and they can tell you where you put your watch, or what's going to happen to you in the future. So clearly they can see past, present, and future. So if it is all happening now, is there an end to it? And does it all start back round again? So yes, you're going to mess with people's heads here. So I don't know. I mean, is there an end, and would it just restart, or is it a parallel? Um, I don't know. It's a good question, but yeah, sorry, I can't answer that. I'm not that clued up on that side of it. But if just taking it from the logic point of view, so if the beginning has already happened and the end's already happened, then is there something else? It goes like, it's a bit like the universe. Is there something else after the end of the universe? So if time's the same, is there anything else after time before it loops back round again? So I don't know the answers to those questions. Okay, I've finally caught up with all the questions there, and hopefully Stacey's still around from his comments from earlier. So I will waffle on now because I think I've caught up. Unless someone else has got something else to say, I'll just waffle on. And if you ask me anything, and I'll try and answer it. These videos do go on YouTube if you're interested. So all the other live chats that I've done, plus obviously my videos that are on my channel, are all on YouTube. So if you want to watch them in one bulk go, because I know I see people watching them, and they have like you can where they've liked them. 1 minute later they've liked another one. No, 1 minute later. So if they don't want to sit and watch it all on their phone, you can watch them on YouTube. I do them in sets of 50, which helps people, I guess. So I'll waffle on. I'll pick a subject and I'll just waffle on. So the booms, has people heard of the booms? The massive booms underground. They're back. Well, I don't think they've actually gone away, but they're being more prevalent now because people's got things like Ring doorbells that are capturing the sounds, which is interesting. So they think, people say that this is what they think, the residents, that it sounds like a sonic boom. And it shakes the windows, and it wasn't just America. It's happened here in the UK 4 years ago or so. People reported it. So the booms, although people say it felt like it was underground, if you watch news reports on the booms in the States, there's like 2 or 3 states that the sound comes from. So people in one state says it sounded like it was underneath their feet. People in another state says it's under, and so on. So whatever it is either reverberates to give the illusion that it's underground, right under their feet, or whatever it is so big that it literally is under, probably hundreds of miles, to make it feel like it's under everyone's feet. So that's pretty scary to know what those booms are. Now, I'm fully aware that the secret military complex have underground bases, and they have these underground train systems that are ultra fast, faster than we've got up here, faster than the bullet train. So I don't think it would be that making the sound, because they've had these trains for a long time, and they interconnect with these different bases. So I don't think it's a train that would be causing that sound. And then you can say, okay, well, there was aliens underground because of, for example, Phil Schneider, who reported that he had to help the military dig down, and they came across a base where aliens were at, and then there was this firefight between the two, humans and these aliens that had built an underground base. So you could argue, okay, if aliens were building secret underground bases without us knowing, could they be doing some sort of experiments underneath? Yes. I wouldn't have said that's the case, though, simply because they can go under water, so that to go under a populated area. Now, the ones where Phil Schneider was talking about wasn't a populated area, very sparse area. So for them to set up a base sort of underneath fairly populated area and do these kind of massive experiments would totally draw attention to themselves, and these booms have been going on for a few years. So I can't imagine it being aliens doing it, because as we know, they can go anywhere they want, and they have got bases in mountains, hidden in mountains and underwater. So I can't imagine it being them. So then it just leads back to the secret military complex doing stuff underneath. Are they tunneling? Is that how they create the new tunnels? Is that how they're creating the new underground cities? I don't know, but it kind of makes me think it's military as opposed to alien underground. Okay, so I'll waffle on. No more questions at the moment, so I'll waffle on about something else. Let me just have a think what I can talk about. Just trying to think something that I've not spoke about before. Trying to think of something. Give me a minute. Because people watch this on YouTube, so I just want to try and think of things that would be interesting to them. I'll talk about Travis Walton just because that's the first thing that comes to my head. I think I've spoken about him actually before, but the reason why I think he's a perfect example is because of the proof that there was that the actual event happened. So I don't know if you guys are aware. They made a film called Fire in the Sky. That was quite a good film actually, but Travis himself said, they did take a few liberties in the film. So, but the case is, I think it was back in the 70s, a group of loggers in the woods in America coming home. It was sort of night time-ish. They saw this orange glow, drove over to it thinking it was a fire. Turns out it's a UFO hovering. Travis gets out of the truck. Everyone says, don't do that. He walks near it, gets hit by a energy beam, throws him back some 6 to 12 foot. Everyone else in the car drives off. They decide eventually to come back and check on him because obviously they were scared. They didn't want to get killed. Came back and he was gone. But what makes that compelling is when they went back, they told the police, and of course the police thought they had murdered him. But they did all the lie detector tests, and although modern lie detectors are better than the older lie detectors, all of the people, I think there was 6 in total, all spot on and didn't and this was the very next day I think that they had these lie detector tests, or if not the day after, and they all passed it. So that has got to be compelling. And then of course people went back to where they last saw Travis with Geiger counters, and the Geiger counters would show that there was radiation there where outside of that area there wasn't. So if you want strong evidence of an alien, but just in case you don't know what happened to Travis, he was gone for a week. Eventually he rang his sister. He was dropped off by the UFO. He wasn't naked, although the film shows him naked. He was dropped off at the edge of town. And he did a collect call. He had no money on him. He did a collect call to his sister, and they drove out and picked him up. And of course, he was shaken really badly, after his ordeal. He apparently came to while he was on the ship. They were actually trying to help him. It turns out, obviously, the original story was they thought they were being bad to him, but after he spooked them, they fired a laser beam or whatever it was at him. And then they decided to help him. So it took him 7 days to, them to heal him. And then they returned him. But in that time, he woke up, saw these little greys, and picked up some, tools, I guess, instruments, that medical instruments that obviously he couldn't really describe because they weren't the sort of medical instruments we had used. But he was swinging at the little greys, trying to kill him. So he was lucky that he survived, but they knocked him out again using their now. So just in case you're unfamiliar with how they how the little greys knock you out and paralyze you. So one is obviously the beam. So if you get sucked up in a beam, that generally knocks you out. The other way is the little greys. They need to put their head about 6 inches from your head, and for whatever, because bearing in mind the little greys I'm talking about are the android type ones. When I say android, they're biological, but they've got computery stuff inside them. Obviously, it's far more advanced than. Sorry, someone just sent me a message. They're far more advanced than what we've got. Anyway, so they put their heads about 6 inches from yours because they can read your thoughts further distance, but they put you to sleep. They put you in a paralyzed state once they're that close. So there's some, they can't do it further away, from what I understand. They have to be that close to you to do that. Even though they can read your thoughts further away, they have to be that close. So it's an interesting technology that they've got to be able to do that, but then it puts you in that paralyzed state. And that's what happened to Travis. They had to go up close to him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be swinging. They would have paralyzed him there and then. So that's another sort of proof to what I'm trying to say. They eventually got close to him, zapped him with their mind paralyzing skills, and of course then he went back to sleep, bless him. So that's fascinating, I think. So I've got 8 minutes left, so if anyone else got any other questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise I'll just pick another little subject and waffle on for 5 minutes. I've got some videos coming up, actually some great ones. Well, I think they're great. It's talking about Anzu, if anyone knows the Anunnaki history. So Anzu was a bad person. He was a thug, as some people described him. So he was just basically an Anunnaki, and he managed to persuade the Aigi, which are the younger Anunnaki. I know people say there's videos out there that say the Aigi are another alien race that the Anunnaki were using as slaves. Sorry, Andrew's right. There was a leaked email from NASA employee. I would like to know more if you've got more. I mean, there's probably loads of leaked things out there, but please tell me what one you're specifically referring to. I'll be interested to know. So just going back while I'm waiting for Andrew to reply. So the Aigi were, in my opinion, the Youngers, not an alien race. And the reason why I say that is because the people that say that they were another alien race, that the Anunnaki were using as slaves, said that they were helping build the pyramids as well as flying the spaceships, the mining ships, for want of a better word, or the trucks, the space trucks that was carrying the gold backwards and forwards. Now, the Book of Enoch makes it, and the other writings makes it sound like they never came down to Earth. And that's why part of the fight happened. There was a big fight later on because they wanted some rest and relaxation. And apparently Enlil turns around and says, well, no, we've not got anywhere for you guys at the moment. And they got angry. But the reason why I don't think they were an alien race is because once they created man, because apparently they wiped out the Aigi, this is the version that if there were aliens, wiped out these alien species called the Igigi, and then they had to create man to help do the stuff that the Igigi was doing. And the reason why I say I don't believe that they were an alien race is because when man was created, man wasn't used to fly their ships. You see, so there's a contradiction there. So there was no point, creating man if they're not going to let him do the same jobs that the Aigi was doing, because the whole point of the Aigi was, supposedly were slaves to the Anunnaki if they were an alien race. So, but the actual descriptions of them, if you read the text properly, was the younger Anunnaki, basically, because you've got to remember they lived for a lot longer than us here. So And you have tribes that have elders, and the elders sit down and the youngers go out and hunt and do all the work. So it's not much different from the Anunnaki by the sounds of it. But Anzu, or Zu as he's also known as, managed to get to the Aigi and asked them to come on board one of their ships. So he learned the operations there. Then he managed to persuade them that he'll be their spokesperson to try and get some rest and relaxation for them down on Earth. So he managed to go down to Enlil and persuade Enlil that he's going to be a perfect person to help Enlil. And so Enlil allowed him, to bear in mind Enlil wasn't the nicest person, so Enlil allowed this crafty person, Anzu, to work with him. And Anzu stole, wait for it, because I've only got a few minutes left, you're all dying to find out what he stole from Enlil and from the Anunnaki. The tablets of destiny. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, they had things called tablets of destiny. I don't actually know what they are yet. I'm going to try my hardest to try and find out what they are. But obviously they're really important. So Ninurtu, who was Enlil's son, chased after him to the mountains in spaceships. And there was this huge battle, and Ninurtu was using lightning bolts and all sorts of things. And so much so that the battle was carved in stone between the two people, Ninurtu and Thingy. So you'll see the videos coming up. It's quite fascinating. And, you can't make this sort of stuff up unless it's written down. There's and the carvings all match. So you have to kind of say, okay, well, maybe this really did all happen. But then the Aigi also had a battle. As I mentioned earlier, they did have a battle with the Anunnaki. So watch my videos to find out more on that. Sorry, so I've only got a few minutes left, so I'm just going to read what Andrew wrote. So this was to do with the leaked email saying, if we knew what they knew, we wouldn't sleep at night. Funny enough, Andrew, really good point, because Linda Moulton Howe spoke to someone that knew, had cosmic clearance, and he told her, because I think she asked about, are we in a simulation or are we in a matrix? And he told her, you do not want to know. So that makes you think, our minds might go round and round. So, yes, you wrote something to do with sleep where you wrote, if we know we wouldn't sleep at night, but it also could be so disturbing, the fact that we could just be, a drop of sand somewhere. Our universe could just be a tiny little thing. That would be pretty scary. So I'm up to my time now, but thank you everybody that's came along, and some great questions as always, even Stacey's. Stacey, if you are listening, try and give some sort of evidence. I know it sounds really patronising, I don't mean it like that, but I am interested in people's viewpoints, but sometimes I just kind of need some substance behind it. I wouldn't want to just have you sort of saying, oh, that's not true. If you can give me background to why it's not true, I would love that. And I'm more than happy to research it. So thank you again. This will go on YouTube if you're interested. So to listen to the whole of it if you've missed it. Thank you, Andrew. Excellent. Stelios has wrote, wake up, Earth is flat. Watch my video on the flat Earth that I've just done, where I asked 10 questions, and believe it or not, funny enough, other than Stacey, whose replies to the questions are questionable, I don't think there's any evidence that he's got for those replies. But 10 questions, if the Earth is flat, I just want one decent answer to one of those questions. That's all I'm after, one. But so far, since I put it up yesterday, thousands and thousands of views, and yet I do get people saying the Earth's flat. I just want one person to answer. I mean, the best one is the Halley's Comet. I think that covers it really, because if we're in a dome and Halley's Comet comes every 70-something years, 73 years, and it only takes 6 days to go over the sort of Earth, what does it do? Hit the dome, and then someone 73 years later has to set it off again inside the dome. So no one's going to be able to answer that, because, let's be honest, they can't. Stelios wrote, do your own research like we have. Well, I am. I'm trying. Research is also to do with asking questions. You can't research. Someone has to give the answers, and sometimes it's not written, so I ask questions. But, these are just logic questions. Where does Halley's Comet come from? Where does it go if it's inside a dome? And who's been setting it off every 70-something years? No one's going to answer that, because as far as if you can, great. Show me the research. How this ice ball that has a trail behind it comes every 73 years inside a dome. Show me that, and then I'll be more than happy. But if you can't show me that, Stelios just wrote, read some books. But no one's going to answer that question. They'll tell me that the viewpoint of the Earth can't be measured with a laser, and they'll tell me about the camera angles and the camera lenses and blah, blah, blah. But the one simple question is all I'm asking. Where does Halley's Comet come from? Where does it go? Stelios just wrote, you have to give me one proof that you live on a ball. I'm kind of asking you the question first. So the logic is drop a bit of water in space. And in fact, I watched a video, I know I'm over time now, but I watched a video with Brian Cox talking about, funny enough, just after someone asked me how come Earth's a sphere, and he was talking about how the pressure will create a sphere in space, but it has to be a certain size. It's called the potato size. Google that, look up the potato size, and once you get to a certain size, a planet will end up being compressed into a sphere. And I'm guessing not just a planet, obviously a moon as well, but certain size. Stelios wrote, God is real. I've just answered you. Okay. Again, kind of need more proof on that. I can give you loads of proof on my God, which is, well, not my God, but the gods that we know, which is the Anunnaki. I can give you where the statues are out there, so straight away that's the gods as written. So you take the Bible, which is a retelling of the Book of Enoch. I can give you writings, I can give you the information, but I need you can't just say God is real and then walk away. You need to give me stuff, because that's the kind of person I am. I need, logic. And Caladorius wrote, thank you for doing these lives. Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you. And Stelios is now asking me to give proof that the Earth is a ball. And then Stelios has wrote, mate, I was like you, dig deeper. I'm just asking for one answer. If you can give me that answer, I'll be more than happy. All right, I have to go now because I've got stuff to do and the world's going to end if I don't go and do it. So thank you everybody though, even Stelios and Stacey, I do appreciate your questions, but if you can give me the sort of figures, then that would be great. Thanks Andrew, and thanks to everyone else that's joined. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.